Hey, everybody, and welcome to Smoky Mountain Echo. I'm your host, Dylan Huffman. Today, we're diving into a part of local government that impacts almost everybody at some point of their life, even if they do not realize it. From recording some of your most important milestones like births, marriage, property ownership, to preserving the historical heartbeat of our county, the Register of Deeds office plays a vital role in keeping public records safe, accountable, and accurate. We're sitting down with Sherri Rogers. She is the Haywood County Register of Deeds to learn more about what their office does, how you can access the services that they provide, and why it matters. Sherri, let's start by talking about just a quick overview of what the Register of Deeds office does and why it's so important to the folks who live here in Haywood County.
The Register of Deeds is the custodian of public records. We record and maintain these records according to numerous regulations and statutes. It's my responsibility to make sure all the public records are readily available for the public to access. And these public records are considered permanent records. It's my duty to preserve the historic records as well as stay up to date on all the technology available for the Register of Deeds office. These records are very important to the county because the records we're responsible for are necessary because they're required in many circumstances in our everyday life. For an example, a birth certificate, use a birth certificate for so many instances, like when your child is going to kindergarten, you have to have a birth certificate. When they play Little League ball, they require a birth certificate. When they get their driver's license or when you get a passport. That's just one example of one vital record that's in our office. And another example would be our real estate records. They're so important to our county. During the COVID pandemic, the governor's mandate mentioned a few offices that were mandated to remain open. The Register of Deeds was one of those offices because they realized the importance of the Register of Deeds office to the economy of a county. I guess I could elaborate by saying that in this office, by us maintaining accurate and accessible public records, the office ensures transparency, protects property rights, and supports real estate transactions, as well as lending and development in our county. So without this office, it would be difficult to verify ownership of property, to resolve disputes that people have, within property rights, or it would be difficult to establish a clear chain of title, which could lead to legal and financial complications for property owners and businesses alike. In this office, the Register of Deeds office, we have a guidebook that's written by Chuck Zipzak, who is a professor at the UNC School of Government. And in this book, he has a statement that says that when registers perform their duties at a juncture between government service and commercial transactions. And I think that this is so true because we are public servants in this office. But what we do is so important to our county. The commercial transactions that we do are so important to our county.
Talk us through, I know you were talking about births. Let's talk about a list of all of the records that you do have here in your office.
Okay, we have real estate records. And these would include deeds of trust, easements, right-of-ways, surveys and plats, if recorded. And that's kind of a misconception that all plats are recorded. But if a survey is recorded, we do maintain those. We have power of attorney records. If you become a notary public and you live in Haywood County, we perform the notary public oath in our office, and we maintain all Haywood County notary records. We also have DD 214s or military discharge records, and that happens to be the only record in my office that isn't considered a public record. It has to be, these documents, the DD 214s, have to be on record for 80 years before they become a public record. We also have vital records, and this would include birth certificates of individuals who are actually born in Haywood County. death certificates of individuals who die in Haywood County, when the death actually occurs in the county. We issue marriage license, and those marriage licenses can be used anywhere in the state of North Carolina. And if you acquire a marriage license in Haywood County, no matter where you actually get married, those marriage licenses are returned to our county. If we issue it, it's returned to our county, and we maintain those records.
How far back do your records go?
Well, Haywood County was formed in 1808, so our real estate records go back to 1808. And our births and deaths began in 1913, and that's when the state of North Carolina required the counties to begin keeping records of births. And also we have marriage license. We have a marriage license index back to 1850, and I've always found it interesting that we have marriage records back to 1850 and births and deaths 1913. I feel that's funny that we began keeping marriage license before we did birth and death records.
That is interesting for sure. Talk us through, or do you have any particularly interesting or historical documents that are here in your records?
To me, they're all interesting. I love the older historical records. When you go back to 1808, it's funny to see how the documents have changed over the years, the type of documents that are recorded. Some of the documents are hard for me to even talk about. When you go back to 1808, you'll see records of slaves being conveyed, human beings being conveyed.
What are some of the reasons that somebody might come into the Register of Deeds office here at the Historic Courthouse in Waynesville?
The thing that takes the majority of our time would be the recording of real estate. Haywood County, we began electronically recording documents in 2010. So I'd say 80% or more of our recording of real estate records is done electronically. But that does take the majority of our time. We do still have some documents recorded at our counter, of course, but the majority of that's done electronically. And then I would say next would be issuing vital records. And our birth certificates, we have a link on our website where you can order birth, death, or marriage certified birth, death, or marriage certificates. So we do quite a bit of those online, but we have the service available online, but we also do see quite a bit of individuals at our counter who do request certified births and deaths. And then our marriage license are issued in person only. So Haywood County, as you know, is a beautiful place, and we issue marriage license to couples from all over the country as well as other countries, because it's a beautiful wedding destination. So we do issue our marriage license at the counter, and we do see people from all over the world.
Can you talk us through that process of, how it works for somebody if they come into the office, what they need to know, what they need to have if they come in looking for either a marriage license or a birth certificate or, a deed?
Well, as far as bottle records, certified copies, the North Carolina General Statutes determine who can actually get a certified copy of a bottle record. And there are, like I mentioned a little earlier, different ways to request those copies. You can request a certified copy in person in our office, and also on our website, as I mentioned, the link that's titled "Obtain a Certified Birth, Death, or Marriage." And also, you can send a letter requesting a certified copy to our office. And the fees for these copies are $10 each for a certified copy. And those fees are set by North Carolina General Statute. I'll throw that in right now. So you can do that as well, but you must have proper identification to get a certified copy and be one of the individuals that are mentioned under the statutes that can get a certified copy of the record. Also, I feel like it's important at this time to mention, I've talked about how we maintain all births and deaths that occur in Haywood County. We also have access to births and deaths for all 100 counties in North Carolina through North Carolina Vital Records. They have a system we call NC-DAVE, which is North Carolina Database Application for Vital Events. And I know that's a mouthful, but that's the system that allows us to access all 100 counties. At this time, we can access birth certificates for all 100 counties from 1971 forward. And the death is a newer system, and they are working on scanning those. But if you have questions about what births and deaths that we can get, please contact our office. And I also want to mention at this time that as of right now, if you're adopted, those birth certificates are removed from the county office, from the county that you're born in. They are removed from our office and sent to Vital Records in Raleigh. So we cannot issue a Vital Record, a birth certificate for you if you are adopted. You have to get those from Vital Records in Raleigh. And at this point, they do not allow the county offices to access the records of adopted individuals. But I will say the North Carolina Register of Deeds Association is working on a process with Vital Records, and we're hoping that soon that's going to change, that we would be able to help individuals who are adopted when you come to Haywood County office, all the county offices actually in North Carolina. And also, I will state this. The birth certificates are, like I said, $10 when you get a county birth certificate. So when you're born in the county, if you come to my office and get a Vital Record for an out-of-county, it's $24 for the first certificate. And if you get additional certificates if you order a birth certificate and you want two, the first one's $24, the second one's $15. So the fee is a little bit higher, but sometimes it's worth not having to go out of county to get that birth certificate or death certificate.
So Sherri, I was, I live in Haywood County now, was not born in Haywood County. So just as an example, if I needed a copy of my birth certificate, I could come into the Register of Deeds office, pay the $24, and then you would be able to give me that certified copy.
Yes, if you were born in North Carolina after 1971 and you're not adopted at this time, I could give you a certified copy of your birth certificate on the spot. Yes, we print those and give them to you when you come into the office.
Take me through some of the scams that you guys see here in your office and what you guys have put into place to hopefully combat some of those.
A common scam that we've seen for years is, and it seems to be something, the scam seems to happen when there's been a transaction on a piece of property. And like, for example, if you buy a new piece of property or a home in Haywood County, there's a card that is sent to the property owner. And on this card, it tells you can pay, I think it was $80, and I've seen it like $100. And they will send you a copy of your deed, your tax assessment, your property card. It is a scam because you can get these records, in Haywood County Register of Deeds. All of our deeds are available online. And of course, you can print those at home for free, or you can get those copies in my office for 25 cents a page. So you sure don't need to pay $80 or $100 for records that you can get in these county offices. So that's one that we, hear about often. And if you look at those cards when those are mailed to you, on the card, it does state that it's not from a government agency and that you can get those copies for a minimal fee in the county offices. Also, as you know, property fraud is a growing problem across our country. And one thing that in Haywood County we have available on our website, haywooddeeds.com, under the online services, there's a link for Property Fraud Alert Service. You can go into that link, or you can come by our office if you need help with that. We'll be glad to help you. And you can put your name as listed on your property deed or any other way you want to list your names. And if anything is filed in our office, you will get an email immediately that does not stop something from happening, but it, if someone,
Let you know.
yeah, lets you know that something has been recorded. And if it were something fraudulent, then you can, that it gives you a head start on the process of what you have to do. And I will say at this point that there are numerous bills right now that have been presented to combat property fraud as well. Our association, the North Carolina Register of Deeds Association, is working on that. And we're hoping to make it easier for individuals who have been affected by property fraud. But Haywood County, so far we have been pretty lucky. We've had one case that an individual came to our counter with a deed, and we caught it. We encourage you, if you own property, to sign up at the property fraud link in our office.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to sign up for sure. Can you talk to us about, if someone's interested in maybe their family records, how can they get started, looking through those, or can they get started looking through those here in your office?
Yes, well, I've mentioned that our records are available online, and our real estate is, Haywood County was formed in 1808. Our real estate goes back to 1808, and all those records are available online. Our vital records, you would need, if you want to see the actual certificates, the births, deaths, and marriages, you would need to come in-house. And we have indexed and scanned all of our vital records as well. Our software, when you're in our office, allows you to search for those records in different ways. Like, for instance, you can search by parent. If you're wanting to see, you have an individual and you want to see all the children this person had, you can do a parent search. If you want to come into our office and do genealogy, we'll be glad to get you started on it and help you out. But like I said, our real estate is available online as well.
I'm sure you've had or seen some interesting stories through the years of people coming and kind of looking through their family history.
Oh yeah, so many that I can't even list them. I remember when I first started in this office years ago, my very first boss, Charles Howe, he thought it was so funny to point out that we had a set of twins that were born in our office in 1914. And the twins' names were Pete and Repeat. I mentioned to my husband, he said, well, I suppose Repeat was the second one born. But according to this record, Pete was the second one born. And Pete's a boy, and Repeat was a girl.
A girl.
So I thought that was interesting. But we also have people who are actually looking at their family history, and they find out things that they didn't know, such as we had I had one individual that was doing a parent search, like I mentioned earlier, wanting to see who their oldest uncle was. And when they did the parent search with their grandfather's name, they realized they have an uncle that they didn't know. So there's people who find out a lot of things when they take the time to look at these records. It's very fascinating.
Switching back to real estate, can folks check if there are liens or issues with their property here in your office?
Now, we, as the Register of Deeds employees, we can't search and tell you if you have liens against your property or deeds of trust or anything against your property, but you are, welcome to do that. And we'll be glad to show you how to use the system. But I will comment at this point that a lien, an actual lien, like a mechanical lien that someone files against you, those are recorded in the clerk of court's office, not the Register of Deeds. So that's sometimes a misconception as well.
Talking about misconceptions or misunderstandings, kind of leading into the next question. What are some things that, people may not understand about what goes on here in your office?
I was at a conference in March, a North Carolina Register of Deeds Association conference, and one of the speakers said, what's something that that is this exact question, what's a misconception that you guys deal with often? And it's funny, every register said the same thing. People come to our counter and they want to add a name to their deed. Like a parent will come and say, I want to add my child's name to the deed, or my new husband, I want to add his name to a deed. Or, it's a misconception that you can walk into the Register of Deeds office and just change a property owner. In order to change, add a name or take away a name or whatever on a deed, you have to have a new document prepared. We recommend you use a real estate attorney for that, so it's done properly, but you have to have a document prepared that shows the intent of the owner, and it has to be properly prepared and notarized, and you record that in our office, and that shows like I said, the intent of the owner, and it's done properly. So also, another misconception is that people walk to our counter often, almost daily, and they say, I've paid my property off. Can you please give me my deed now? So I think people think it's kind of like a car title transaction. When you're paying for a car, you don't have your title. So actually what happens in that situation is when you buy a piece of property or home, you have a deed, and you have in North Carolina what's called a deed of trust, which is a security instrument that shows that property is used as collateral for that loan. And when you pay your home off, we'll say, you have a satisfaction of deed of trust, and that satisfaction is recorded here. And so when you come in and ask for, mention you paid your deed off, we can look for a satisfaction or help you look for a satisfaction and you can help us determine if it's the one you're looking for, and we can give you a copy of that. But your deed you should have received when you originally bought the property. So you should have your deed, from the original time of purchase.
As we kind of, come to a close here, what would you say is, one of the most, or, I'm sure you can't narrow it down to just one, but what are some of the most rewarding parts of your job?
Well, this seems like a canned answer because we've talked about this a lot, but in our office, we deal with the public at some of the most important and rewarding times of their life, like when an individual gets married. We do the marriage license, which is so much fun. When they have a child, we have your birth certificates. And when you buy your first home, we record your deed. So those are such important times in your life. And we're so fortunate to get to work with the public at those times. And we do, work with families, and we do our very best to help individuals who have lost a family member, with their death certificates. We do our best to help them and walk them through what they would need to go next door to the clerk of court's office for an estate, to file the estate for the deceased. And so we're so glad to be able to help someone through those hard times, because that's a difficult time, and you want all the help you can get. So we're just very fortunate to work with people during such important times of their life.
That was Sherri Rogers, Haywood County Register of Deeds. The Register of Deeds office is located in the historic courthouse at 215 North Main Street in Waynesville. Their phone number is 828-452-6635, and their website is haywooddeeds.com. That's haywooddeeds.com. New episodes of Smoky Mountain Echo drop the last Tuesday of every month, and they're always available on demand. You can check out our website, smokymountainecho.podbean.com, and we'll see you next month.